Okay, let's get right into it. Imagine waking up tomorrow, and poof, a fifth of the world's coffee is just gone. Total chaos, right? Well, that's pretty much exactly what just happened in the energy world, only the stakes were way, way higher. A huge chunk of a critical global resource just vanished, like overnight.
Yeah, 20%. Let that sink in for a second. That's 1 out of every 5 ships carrying natural gas across the ocean just stopped. We're talking about a staggering amount of energy here, enough to keep whole continents running. So this wasn't just some small hiccup, you know? This was a massive, seismic shock to the entire global system.
And that's the key thing to understand. This wasn't a shortage, like we'd suddenly run out of gas. Nope. This was a total supply chain collapse. Think of it like the main bridge on the world's biggest highway just crumbling into the sea without any warning. The whole system for getting energy from point A to point B just completely shattered. So you gotta ask, how on earth did this happen?
Well, the whole thing started with a spark, a conflict in the Middle East, a place that, as you know, is the absolute nerve center for global energy. But the explosion this time wasn't in oil, which is what you might expect. No, this detonated the huge and, frankly, super complex market for what we call liquefied natural gas, or LNG.
And man, things went south fast. I mean, astonishingly fast. You had key LNG plants getting attacked. Then Qatar, which is one of the biggest players in the game, had to declare what's called force majeure. That's basically the legal way of saying all bets are off, we can't deliver your gas. But the real killer? The Strait of Hormuz, this super critical shipping lane, suddenly became way too dangerous for anyone to pass through. And look, here's why that's such a massive deal. That little sliver of water? 1 in every 5 LNG ships on the entire planet has to sail through it. So when Hormuz shuts down, that 20% of the world's supply we were talking about, it's literally trapped. It is the definition of a choke point.
So, right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, big deal. Just get the gas from somewhere else, right? Huh? If only it were that simple. See, natural gas isn't like oil, where you can pretty much pump it into any old tanker. LNG, it has this incredibly specialized, super rigid supply chain. It is absolutely not designed to handle sudden surprises. I mean, the whole process is just a wild feat of engineering. First, you pull the gas out of the ground. Then you have to super chill it to a crazy minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit. That turns it into a liquid, and get this, it shrinks its volume by 600 times. That's like taking a giant beach ball and squishing it down to the size of a marble. Then you load it onto these insane billion-dollar ships, and when it gets to its destination, you have to warm it back up in another special facility to turn it back into gas. There's just no plan B for a system this complex. So what happens next? Well, pure panic, that's what. Prices in Europe and Asia, the biggest gas buyers in the world, they just went through the roof. We're talking a 60, even 80% jump in just a few weeks. These countries were looking at a future where the lights could actually go out, and they were ready to pay literally anything to make sure that didn't happen. So that's the setup. That's the big question, right? You've got a massive crisis, one of the world's biggest suppliers is knocked out, and everyone is scrambling for energy. Who could possibly fill a gap that big? Who had the gas, the right tech, and the ability to swoop in? Well, the answer was probably not who you think. Yep, the United States. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. This is a country that just a few years ago was actually importing natural gas. And now, in this stunning turn of events, it suddenly became the one country the world couldn't live without, all without firing a single shot. Now, this didn't happen by accident. The US was in this perfect, unique position to solve the crisis. And it wasn't because of some brilliant master plan from the government. Nope. It was because of a tech revolution that had been simmering under the surface for more than a decade. The shale gas boom. So America had this perfect hand of cards. 4 aces, really. First, it was already the world's #1 producer of shale gas. Second, it had a huge surplus. I mean, way more than it needed for itself. Third, its export terminals are all on the Gulf of Mexico, thousands of miles from any conflict. And fourth, and this is a big one, its ships didn't have to go anywhere near the Strait of Hormuz. A perfect storm of advantages.
So what is this shale gas stuff anyway? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like gas trapped inside a giant rock that acts like a sponge. We knew it was in there for decades, but we just couldn't figure out how to get it out. Then came fracking. That technology was basically the key that let us finally squeeze that rock sponge and unlock these absolutely immense reserves of gas that everyone thought were impossible to get to.
And the money side of this? Oh, it was just incredible. Think about it. In the US, it cost maybe $2.50 to produce a unit of this gas. Meanwhile, those desperate buyers in Europe and Asia, they were willing to pay $15, maybe more. If you're an American gas producer, this is the jackpot, the opportunity of a lifetime. You're selling something cheap from your backyard for a massive profit on the world stage.
But okay, this story is about more than just some companies getting rich. This crisis fundamentally changed everything. It completely rewrote the rulebook for how countries think about energy, about how they keep the lights on for their people.
It's a huge shift in thinking. The old rule was super simple. Just find the cheapest gas you can, wherever it is. The new rule, it's completely different. Now it's about finding the safest, most reliable gas, even if it's more expensive. All of a sudden, security is way more important than price.
Yeah, this quote just nails it. Geography matters more than price. All of a sudden, things like a stable government and a safe shipping lane became more valuable than a bargain. A tanker full of gas that you know is going to show up from Texas is worth way more than a cheaper one that might get stuck in a geopolitical mess somewhere.
And this change in mindset is literally redrawing the world's energy map as we speak. We are watching a huge rerouting of money, of influence, of global power, and these changes are going to stick around for decades. It's creating a whole new lineup of winners and losers.
So what's next? Well, here's how it's playing out. Right now, today, countries are literally ripping up their old contracts with suppliers in the Gulf and signing new long-term deals with companies in the US and Canada. In the near future, you're going to see a gold rush of investment into building new export facilities all over North America. And looking further out, we're really entering a new reality where energy security is basically a form of military power.
Which leaves us with one last kind of wild thought. In this massive global showdown, the world panicked, a Middle Eastern energy superpower stumbled, and the ultimate winner wasn't the nation with the biggest army or the most advanced navy. Nope. The biggest winner was a bunch of spongy rock buried deep under Texas.